Hi, welcome to Fanboy Critic, our show where we go see new movies out in theaters and give you our review.
Both the good and the bad. I'm Joel Ortiz, and I'll be your fanboy.
And I'm Sam McClure, I'll be your critic. This week on Fanboy and Critic, we went to go see Dungeons & Dragons: Honor Amongst Thieves. Directed by Jonathan Goldstein and John Francis Daley, starring Chris Pine, Michelle Rodriguez, Justice Smith,
So many other...
Hugh Grant.
Yeah, how do you forget Hugh Grant?
I don't know. I don't remember the other people either.
Never put your trust in a con man.
If you don't know what Dungeons & Dragons is, it's a very popular TTRPG that has recently gotten a second iteration at a movie. All right, Jay. Jonathan Goldstein, John Francis Daley. What did they do well? We're Dungeons & Dragons players. Did they bring D&D to the big screen in a good way?
Yes, they definitely did. They brought the atmosphere and everything you describe. He's my DM, guys. So everything he describes, I imagine that in my head. But with this movie, they brought it to life in the big screen. I mean, I can't say it any better. I mean, there's so many little things that I remember from playing D&D, and I'm like, hey, I recognize that, or that race, I recognize that kind of creature and stuff like that. And that was great. What I liked most about it didn't feel forced. Everything felt natural. The world they created felt natural. They weren't screaming hey, D&Ders, look at this, look at that. It was just naturally there, and you enjoy it. But the storyline was great. And it's exactly how a campaign is. You start from this point, you meet other people, you get the group together, and you do this big thing together. And it's not screaming D&D. And that's what I was afraid of. I felt like they were going to try and force it on people, just hey, you should know this, or, you should recognize this. But no, it was just great. And I think the cast did a really good job. The cast was really great.
I'm glad he's on our side.
It was spot on what D&D should be on the big screen.
Yeah, if you can't tell, I'm smiling ear to ear. I don't have much to disagree with. I don't have a lot of bad things. It kind of borders on campy at times, but I feel like the whole tone was supposed to be that way. It wasn't. Yeah. It wasn't out of place. It was just you have to expect some camp and some silliness. There's a lot of references, and maybe that's just things that I get because I'm very familiar with it. Mm-hmm. And then there are some things that if you didn't know, it kind of stands out as well, that's odd. Why did they include that? And then but mostly you're right. It doesn't scream D&D if you don't know D&D. They didn't have to title it Dungeons and Dragons, and I don't know if that helps or hurts their their box office, because I feel like people see Dungeons and Dragons in the movie and they're I'm not going to go see that. That's not a thing I'm interested in. Mm-hmm. But if they saw a trailer for this movie, they might be that's really cool, and they have no idea it's Dungeons and Dragons based. So I don't know if that helped or hurt, but ultimately damn good job. Some of the, I would say I guess it falls into some of the fantasy tropes out there where the villains' plans don't make sense as much as they could. Okay. Yeah, there's definitely a plan there, but then there's just times where
I was a little confused with some of their motives, I guess.
Yeah, their motives, and some of their times it doesn't make 100% sense. I would say Hugh Grant's character really didn't make a whole lot of sense to me.
Yeah.
From beginning to end, I was just why does he need to be here? I mean, he needs to be here because he's Hugh Grant and he's doing a good job with the character, and it's fun. But for the villain plan, I'm just I don't understand. I don't know what's going on with him. I'm supposed to say shitty things. I'm supposed to say shitty things.
This is just a review.
It's a bit. I would say it's a bit predictable.
Very.
By the end, I'm just oh yeah, this is gonna happen. But ultimately, characters are maybe a little bit. Some of them are one note, and their character arcs are very okay, this person needs this, and then by the end of it, they're gonna get that.
Figure it out over a drink?
Probably best.
I would say the acting was pretty good, especially for Chris Pine and Michelle Rodriguez and Hugh Grant.
For sure.
I thought Justice Smith was okay. He was just okay. Jay, you got to convince the critics out there to go see a Dungeons and Dragons movie, a movie based on a game.
Critics, go watch this movie because I know you're not even willing to play the game. Yeah, definitely watch this movie just because it's an adventure movie. I mean, Who doesn't want to watch, a group of people get together and take down whatever monsters in their way or whatever evil doing is in their way? I mean, it's an adventure movie. You want to see that. I mean, you want to watch these people progress and just take down this big, whatever bad person it is. I mean, that's what it is, critics. You know what you're getting yourself into.
Listen, if you're a fanboy of movies, there's a pretty good chance that you're also a fanboy of also playing D&D. The odds are higher now than they've ever been. So what I will say to try and convince you not to see the movie is that wouldn't your own adventure be much more interesting than watching screenwriters very easily cobble together character arcs and things that you don't have any control over or any input into? You just have to sit there and watch. Wouldn't playing D&D be better than watching D&D? Unless it's one of my streams. This is a terrible argument. I don't know, fanboys. Like, if you're not gonna see this movie, I don't know what to tell you. It was good. It's fun. I know you're on the positive side of the rating scale for sure.
Yes.
So I guess between like and like, amazement, and love.
Yes.
Where are you at?
I actually love this movie. I loved it. Like I said, playing the game and watching it come to real life, that's just what did it to me. I mean, the entire time, every single scene, I just hear you in my head as my DM, like, hey, this is what I'm describing. This is how things look, and this is what this person's saying. And when I play D&D, I live vicariously through my character, and that's what I did with these characters here. I was living through everyone there. Yeah, I absolutely loved it. It was enjoyable from beginning to end. And to be honest, I did take a restroom break at a very big part. And without seeing that, I could tell you I actually really love this movie.
I had very high expectations coming into this. I thought the trailer was great. I love the property. I knew that it was going to be very heavily involved in the actual world building of Faerun, which is the actual world of Dungeons and Dragons. Most people play their own worlds. I make my own world for D&D, but like the official main fantasy world is what they take place in, and they just spent a lot of time making that correct. And I have to say, like, I loved it. The expectations were super high. I was actually coming into the review going, I was really amazed by how, and then I just realized this. I'm gonna talk about it. I can't stop smiling.
It was very good. It was great.
They did so good.
Welcome to Fanboy and Fanboy.
Fanboy. Yeah, if there's one thing I can be a fanboy for, it's D&D.
Of course.
The humor was good. It didn't feel forced or flat. The action was really good.
Yep.
The world building, the effects. There were so many practical effects. Some of the CGI effects scared the living daylights out of me. Like, they were really...
Yeah, there was a lot of like jump scares at moments. Like, you didn't...
There was some weird CGI that was meant to be like off-putting and be like, oh yeah, this is supposed to like freak you out. And it did. In weird ways, just like it's supposed to be uncanny. Like, it reached that uncanny valley, and it just did. But they did it intentionally. And I think almost everything that they could do practically, they did, which is another amazing thing that you don't get to see very often. Like, literal like races from D&D, like bird people, dragon people, cat people in like costumes or animatronics. Like, I was for sure they were gonna use CGI for that. I don't know if I have much else to say about it.
Watch it for yourself.
It's so good. And if you don't like it, you're just objectively wrong. All right, fanboys and critics, thanks for watching. Make sure to like, subscribe, leave a comment below if you want to see more D&D stuff. The channel is full of D&D stuff. And check us out next week for Super Mario Brothers movie.
Super Mario! And we'll see you for the next review. You should know what Dungeons and Dragons is. Everybody wants to play the game.
If you want to know what Dungeons and Dragons is, check out the rest of the channel. It's like mostly D&D.